Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Londonderry Town Council meeting for December 19th at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. As it is the holiday week, happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone. Enjoy the holidays, be safe. A couple of notable things. We just attended a police ceremony across the courtyard. It was very moving. It was great to see some of the officers who have been here for a number of years be promoted and a number of new officers joining us. In addition to that, our Public Works Department pulled a 24-hour shift Friday night and made the roads all safe for everybody all this weekend. It's a great town, a great place to work, great place to live, and we thank everyone for that. And this tonight's moment of silence is for everyone's safety through the holidays. Thank you. So we're going to start off with public comment, and I'm going to give Chief Bernard the floor.
Good evening. As John, as the chairman pointed out, we just finished our promotional ceremony and the swearing in of 5 new Londonderry police officers. So I'd like to introduce them to you all and to the community. Ryan Wolbrook came to us as a certified police officer from the town of Bedford. Brendan Hurley, certified officer from the town of Bedford. Samantha Savini came to us from the town of Hampton Police Department. Mitch Gore Scarlett, he's a new officer. He'll be going to the police academy here in a couple weeks. And Frank Civitello is also going to be going to the police academy. Hopefully, we're going to squeeze him in to the January 1. If not, it'll be February, but these are the newest officers to serve the town of Londonderry. So without further ado, lady, gentlemen, town council, please.
Come on up.
Congratulations.
Thanks for leaving Bedford. Again, thanks for leaving Bedford. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Just real quick, I wanted to share with you, I know several months back we had talked about hiring officers and getting our staffing up. These 5 right here are solid men and women to join our force. The amount of time that the background investigators, as I've explained to you, detectives do to get us qualified officers that the town council and the community have known to expect us to give them. Here's an example of 5 more. Also, just so I want to be clear about one thing. I know I was talked last time about staffing and forced overs. Councilor Green, you had asked how many. So far, from the last time we chatted, we've had 9 forced over incidents so far. But we see right here that there's some relief in the way. So
Thank you.
thank you very much, and that is all for me.
Thanks, Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, it's public comment. If you have anything you'd like to address with the council, now would be the time. Seeing none, we will move on. New business. Mike and Justin, proposed amendment, section 5.7 of the town charter. Do you have an update for us from DRA?
I do, Mr. Chairman. So, as was discussed on the last occasion that this matter was addressed, amending a town charter requires submitting the proposed amendment to the Attorney General's office, the Secretary of State's office, and the Department of Revenue Administration to give those departments an opportunity to look at the proposed amendment to see if it complies with the law. We have been informed by those offices in a letter received last week that they do not object to our proposed or the proposed amendment. triggering a 7-day time frame within which the town council can either order or not order the proposed amendment to be placed on the ballot for voting on in March. That is the update I have for you, Mr. Chairman. The merits of this were discussed at length at the last hearing. As the council is aware, we have received some correspondence from someone who is not in the room tonight, Ms. Christine Perez, who has opined that the amendment is unnecessary and that the process that we have is working just fine. And that is the extent of the input that we've received.
All right. I'll accept the motion for discussion.
Second.
All right, discussion. Is there anything anyone wants to discuss before we vote?
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure. So if we put it to the ballot, it's going to be binding, right?
So, yes, if it were placed on the ballot and it, a majority of the residents support it, it is a binding change, and it would be implemented, correct?
So it's not advisory. People
Correct.
are asking that question. so-
Correct, not advisory.
In other words, my point of view is if people want to vote on it, they vote on it, they vote it up, they vote it up, they vote it down, they vote it down. We abide by what the voters say. That's my point of view.
Same.
Same for me, too. I was going to make a motion
We have a motion on the floor
for discussion, right?
for discussion to move it to the ballot. It can be either voted on to go to the ballot or defeat it and not go to the ballot. Call for the vote. Roll call. Chad?
Opposed, Chad Franz. Agreed, Jim Butler.
Agreed, Joe Green?
Opposed, Deb Paul.
Let's put it on the ballot. 3-2. Okay, next order of business, budget workshop. Justin, you have updates for us?
So yes and no. I come with a little bad news. I had spoken with DRA as well as several other finance directors across the state, and they're being instructed that meals and rooms, they should level off and we shouldn't budget at what we've had this current year. So that results in a slight decrease in our revenues. But the good news on this aspect, however, not this, but other things, because we currently have a larger vehicle maintenance in our DPW, we believe we'd be able to fix one of the vehicles rather than replace it. And we're able to lower the warrant article number 5 to 85,000 from, I believe it was at 96 previously. In addition to that, I updated the LPEA union contract dollar value. And the only other item was you guys were looking for me to come back with what the impact of having the same appropriations as last year was. I went through and did that. However, there are a lot of balls in the air that I expect to be fully completed by January 9th. So I'm hoping to be able to get that for you at that point without coming to you on January 9th and saying XYZ has changed since today's date. So it's up to you guys whether you want me to proceed in that manner or wait till the 9th when these items should be resolved.
Okay, so the question remains the same. You can look at some line items that we might be able to reduce or may not be able to reduce, or we have to make a decision on what services to reduce if you want to affect the cost of the budget. That's what's on the table.
So to clarify, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
So if I don't remember that exact number, I don't know if Mike had it up there, but it was 180,000, I think. There was 180 going to a UFB, or taken out of UFB, and 180 that was, that we asked you to find where we can reduce that, right?
So your request was including what we're using currently for UFB in the tax rate setting?
Yep.
If we can get that to 0, which
At 0. Yep.
after the decreases from previously, it was $115,537 that we were looking for.
Okay. So I want you guys to know, I'm asking you to take $115,000 out of how much of a budget? So if you can't do that, we'll meet in your office and I'll be able to find it. So I just don't
what I'm
understand why
telling
it's
you-
even a question. at
What
this
I'm
point.
telling you
Yeah.
is I have it. However,
Okay. Good.
hopefully by January 9th, a lot of these items will have resolved themselves rather than having to go and cut line items and things of that nature. We have several positions that we have offers out to that should help resolve a lot of this.
Okay,
So we want to wait. Want to wait, Joe?
that's fine.
All right, so are there any services you want to cut? Decrease in services, because that's where the money is now. Yes or no? I mean, we'll look at what Justin brings to us, but are there any line item services you want to decrease?
Well, stay away from personnel and stay away from Old Home Day. You can find it.
Any members of the Budget Committee, are there any line item services you want us to cut? Okay. I think that's the end of the budget workshop. Okay. Next item. Order 2022-22. An order relative to the expenditure of maintenance trust funds for various projects. Dave?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Town Manager, members of the board. I have an expendable maintenance trust fund request for an emergency repair of a roof leak over at the Leach Library. The $6,200 is for the emergency repair that was done on Friday the 2nd, I believe it was. I'm sorry, the 9th. And for the materials for the permanent repair, which will be done in the spring. It's on the flat part of the roof, the rubber membrane roof up there. There has been some other temporary repairs that were done to this in the past, but another one has been discovered and was getting worse due to some high winds that come across that roof. So we placed some ballast up there as well. An entire pallet of sand, tube sand, was placed all across the roof to stop the membrane from moving and tearing the seams. So it's too cold this time of year to do repair the seams, so the one that was most heavily damaged, we covered with flashing for now. We did do some caulking around a couple of the drains where it had torn, and it seems to have stopped. We've also put up a couple of leak diverters underneath the ceiling inside the building, so if it does start to leak again, it's diverted right into a trash can right now, to a barrel. So, and the permanent repair, the materials will be ready to go for spring. Any questions?
Questions?
Yeah, I have one, John. if you
Please.
don't mind. I feel like this is like, since I've been in town, this is like the fourth time we've had to fix the roof on this library that's relatively, no, how many? Are you kidding me?
Do we get a warranty?
What the heck? I mean, are there
let's
that many incompetent people out there that,
Let's be honest, it wasn't built correctly to begin with, back when it was built in 2000.
so where, but what, I mean, how come, if you paid someone to put a roof on your house, there's warranties and guarantees, didn't we inspect it? I mean, some of the onus falls on the town for not following through, but
Totally agree.
what the heck? I mean,
At
So
the time
I-
that was built, Deb, we didn't have a clerk of the works, which I think was a mistake. But we have to deal with it.
but Jim, how many
The
times,
warranties are
John?
passed.
Oh, at least 7 or 8.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I mean, in all those 8 times, nobody else followed up and checked it? I'm not blaming you, by the way. I understand you're a new guy stepping in to the dog
I've learned a
poop.
great deal of what's
You're not wrong.
transpired on the roof over there in the last month and a half or so. But even if we tore off all 4 different roof levels over there and redid everything, the design of the whole roof with the add-ons and whatnot, it's created in a way where you have, whenever you have watershed from one roof going onto another roof, then dumping onto a flat roof.
Yeah, I understand.
And one whole level of it is almost like a dish, and you're gonna have standing water. You know, it works great for a while. When I arrived here in August of '21, they were over there repairing a portion of the roof. And that repair has held up. But what we discovered, and thankfully we were up there on a windy day, was the rubber membrane roof. Either the glue let go, there wasn't enough glue applied or whatnot, it wasn't mechanically fastened, and when they removed the tree line to do the expansion of the fire department, all that wind is now just cutting across that roof, and it's creating extreme turbulence on the rooftop.
And so every time it moves, it pulls and it tears at the seams and it tears at the drains. And I have video of it. It's pretty incredible. It was stretching a good foot to a foot and a half high off the roof deck. So that's why we put the ballast all over the roof, because it should have been mechanically fastened, glued, or had ballast placed on it. So,
I know one of them, they didn't put the nails far enough down.
yeah.
So it just kept ripping away.
Pulling off. And with the wind, it doesn't surprise me, because, you know, if you don't mechanically fasten it and screw it to the underlayment metal roof deck below, then it's gonna pull.
I just feel like we've spent a lot of money on this roof. They could have redesigned the whole
The
roof
good
for the
news
amount
is,
of money we
a
spent. on
week
it.
later,
And maybe that's what we need to do,
a week later, we.
honestly.
I understand. I'm just shaking my head.
Yeah, so.
Totally
so-
agree.
So with this past weekend storm, with the rain and the slush and all that mess up there, what we had done, the leaks had subsided. So, you know, what we did is working well so far. But again, it's not a permanent repair. Unfortunately, we had another leak show up in the front lobby. But that was the buildup of the slush and snow and rain. It looks like it got into the conduit that goes through the ceiling up to the rooftop unit, and it stacked up enough that it was bleeding into that and getting into the foyer. So I'm going to get up there tomorrow and the next couple of days with some more melt and whatnot. I don't like walking on membrane roofs, especially this time of year, because they're very brittle. And every time you go up there, you could potentially do more damage to it. So I'm waiting for all the snow and ice to melt off. I'm going to try and find that conduit and seal it up so we won't have that leak. But the design of the entire roof itself, it's potentially always going to be problematic because of all the different levels and pitches and different types of material that you have. You have asphalt shingle on the front, you have rubber membrane on the back, 3 different elevations up there. So it looks pretty from the street and out front, but when you get up there and you get on that roof and you get behind it and look at it, it's troublesome, so.
So Dave, do we have problems in the rest of the building?
As far as the roof is concerned,
Any other portions of the building, are there problems?
so the HVAC system over there, as you know, we put in the new building management system, which has worked out tremendously well because, so they had an HVAC contractor in place, but they did not have an annual maintenance, preventative maintenance program going on. So they had a lot of soot and whatnot going on in one part of that building, and when we found out why, because the rooftop units probably hadn't had filters changed in, I don't know how long. You know, some belts and stuff like that. So we're working through that. There was 4 VAV valves on some of the circulators that had issues, and then one of the 2 pumps that's on the boiler went, and they just had it repaired about 1.5 years ago. Of course, it was a 1-year warranty on that work, but the company we're working with now recommended that it's time to change that pump. You probably shouldn't have even repaired it 1 year ago. You should have just got a new one. So that has been done, and since that, now the 2 pumps are working pretty good on the. So, but beyond HVAC and roofs, which is usually the 2 worst components of any building, really. Not that I'm aware of. We don't have too many.
Structurally, the rest of the building's okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no structural issues with the building at all.
So what would it cost us to put a proper, I'm not an engineer. Can we put a pitched roof on it?
Well, we'd have to have a whole design done. I mean, you got rooftop units up there, so they'd have to either come to the ground or be relocated in a different manner. You'd have to really get a design of that, because again, you have 2 different wings of the building and then the center part, and everything's kind of shedding all into that one area. That would be complicated, to say the least. But,
But not impossible.
anything's possible as long as you got the money. So, you know,
building's about-
it could get extremely costly. I mean, you'd have to, you know, because you're talking about putting a lot more load up there. As it was, I was a little concerned about how much sand we were going to put up there for the ballast. You know, I don't know what exactly that roof is rated for, but the way that we displaced it across the entire membrane, you know, we were pretty comfortable that we had to do something, because if that whole membrane came off, we'd really be in a problem. So
Building's a little over 20 years old, right?
I believe so.
Not the original portion, the new
Not,
portion.
the back, yeah.
Right. So I think what we're going to hear from the council, and I'll let them go, is we need a better plan.
You mentioned we didn't have a maintenance plan for the HVAC. Do we have one now in place?
Annual maintenance contract, yes. Yep, they got one together, we got 3 quotes, and they went ahead, the Board of Trustees, and took that on.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Dave, what's the background to this new roofing company that's gonna come in?
So we got 3 quotes on this. This leak started late October. We got a quote from one company that had done previous work for us, and we just couldn't get any response back from them whether if they were going to come and do it or not. We got another quote, and there was some delays. There was some weather issues for when they could come out and whatnot. And then we couldn't get a commitment on them on the day that we absolutely had to have them there before a lot of that rain came, and I needed to get it done. So I called the company that I have previously worked with. They're out of Massachusetts, so their rates were a little bit higher. But I basically asked for some salvation there to help us out, and they came up, and they actually were lower, ended up coming in a little lower than the other company that failed to tell us if they were gonna come or
They're
not.
experienced in flat roofs and rubber roofs.
Yes, they are. Yep. And the temporary repair that they've done, like I said, went through this storm, and it made it, but there wasn't a lot of wind. This weekend storm coming up Friday, we've got some wind, so we're gonna get put to the test, but we're pretty ready to go to catch it.
And it's the same kind of roof we have at Matthew Thornton, right?
Yeah, it's flat roof.
Similar, yeah,
Same-
flat
same-
roof,
which they're
rubber membrane.
redoing every 15 minutes over there.
Yeah, flat roofs are, flat roofs with rubber membrane, they're always a problem, so.
Mr. Chairman, you already predicted what I was gonna ask for, and I think that's time after all of these repairs and kind of, patchwork that we really see who can, bid us on, getting a new roof and redesigned and see how much that would even cost and see, at least look at it, understand what we're up against, because this is just, I don't know how many times, like we were talking 8.
Yeah.
We can't even fill the time on 2 hands,
That's what I remember.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah, and
just
that's
been-
unfortunate for, for that roof. I see a couple of little patches that they've done and whatnot, but it should have been noted or seen somewhere. You can either mechanically fasten it, glue it, or put ballast on it, and all three aren't relevant, aren't prevalent there, so.
So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what I'm hearing is that we need to have a conversation with the library and the library trustees and explain to them that we need them to bring something to the CIP to, with a number of what this might look like, and we need to start planning further out.
Sure.
Because
We're just gonna keep doing this over and over again, and we all know the definition of insanity.
Yes, we do.
And,
Feel like we're in it
no,
right
all
now.
joking aside about Matthew Thornton, it does feel like every 15 minutes they're up there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
anybody else?
I want to ask you a question. Have we talked to the school? I mean, a lot of those roofs are all rubber roofs. Who are they using and if they had?
I don't know who they're using. I mean, those are much larger square footage and whatnot, so probably larger companies. And this is, small patchwork, so those types of companies aren't usually typically interested. And again, it's a unique situation. So once we started, cresting that, not getting above 40 degrees anymore, there's only so much you can do. The adhesives aren't gonna work and whatnot, so we had to quickly do something, get something in place.
Several years ago, we signed an order in here to shovel the snow off the senior center roof. And finally, somebody asked, why are we shoveling the snow off the senior center roof? And they said, well, that was because of the fire. And we're like, what fire? Well, as we found out, we sent a structural engineer up there, and all the timbers were charred from the fire, so the roof wasn't as strong as it used to be. So that's why we were shoveling the snow off of the
Snow work can
roof.
be dangerous, yeah.
So we put a new roof on. Different structure, different type of thing. This sounds a little bit like, why do we keep doing the same thing over and over again and not getting better results?
Yeah.
So if you could work with the town manager and with the library trustees, if you guys are okay with that, see what's involved so that we can stop having these conversations?
Sure. Happy to.
Yeah, because it's their building, so they've got to
Right.
have, they've got to be involved.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Next item, ordinance 2022-07, rezoning application for Gizmo Enterprises, first reading. I have a first reading for an amendment to the zoning ordinance relative to rezoning map 13, lot 143. The second and public hearing will be on January 9th. Can I have a motion to waive first reading?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. This is your notice for public hearing on January 9th.
Mr. Chairman, just one clarification on that. It's on the agenda as ordinance number 2022-07. With the public hearing occurring at the next meeting, that's going to be 2023-01.
Gotcha. Please correct the minutes accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Resolution 2022-23, Commercial Industrial Tax Exemption Program Revision. Mike and Kelly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a first reading as well. I can preview it for the council now, if you'd like, or reserve that to the 9th of January.
What's your pleasure?
We should waive the first reading.
You want to waive the first reading? I'll accept the motion to waive the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
First reading of 1219, amending and extending the Londonderry Commercial and Industrial Property Tax Incentive Program. I have a motion and a second with a public hearing on January 9th. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Reading waived. Okay. Next item, December 5th, Town Council minutes for approval. I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented in our packet.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Minutes are approved. I have appointments and reappointments. We're moving through things quickly here tonight. Appointments and reappointments for members of the Conservation Commission first. I have, so with these appointments and everything, I have a number, it appears that volunteerism is not as, what's the right word? We could have used some more volunteerism.
Oh, that's
Prevalent.
It looks like we got a lot of reappointments. And as we go through these, as long as they're not interfering with a next meeting of the particular boards, if there's ones that we want to have come on in and talk to us, even though they're reappointments, let's go through those and then pull them out as we go. Let's start with Conservation Commission. I have the reappointment of David Heffley and Bob Maxwell, both to full terms expiring December 31st, 2025. Any discussion? You just want, if you want to reappoint them, make a motion.
So moved.
second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Reappointing those gentlemen, please see the clerk and be sworn in. You have to be sworn in again once your term expires. Planning Board, I have reappointments. I have no new applicants. I have reappointments of Al Sypek, Lynn Wiles, and Roger Filio. Mr. Sypek and Wiles are full members until 12/31/2025, and Mr. Filio is from 12/31/2025 as an alternate member.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Resignation of David Armstrong, full member. I have a letter from Mr. Armstrong resigning. Mr. Armstrong, we thank you for your service. May I have a motion to accept Mr. Armstrong's resignation?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative. ZBA reappointments. Very candidly, I don't know either one of these two folks, and there are two alternate member positions opening. But it looks like there's gonna be a full member open since Mr. Armstrong resigned.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Bernard is the sitting chair of the ZBA, and she is seeking a reappointment to a full term. And Ms. Macarelli is currently an alternate, and she is seeking to move up to a full-time seat.
When is their next meeting?
Sliding into David's position?
ZBA is usually the third week of the
Correct,
month.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, just Irene would be sliding into David's position, full-time position, so.
Okay.
Well, what do you wanna do with the ZBA?
When's
Like-
your next meeting?
It's usually the
third
third week of a month, so it'll probably be late January.
The next ZBA hearing, Mr. Councilor Franz, or the next town
ZBA.
council? ZBA is this coming Wednesday,
And this coming
this coming
Wednesday?
as in the day after
And the
tomorrow.
resignation is
Well, they're
effective.
good until the end of this year. The resignation's
yeah.
effective tonight, or it's effective 12/31.
Would
excuse
you,
me.
would you oppose having them come in since we haven't met any of them before, or?
Oh, we've put them on the board.
Yeah.
We definitely
That's up
have.
to the council. If you wanna have them come on in, they can come on in and we can talk to them again. And that goes for any board.
I'm fine with reappointing then. I mean,
I think they
It's
do a
up to the
good job.
council.
I mean, I go to most of those meetings. I
Yeah.
think I've maybe missed about 6, but in 3 years, but for the most part, they're always there. They do their due diligence. ZBA is a hard board, I have to admit.
I was on
It's
it.
a
Quasi-judicial board, it's very
it's
difficult.
a very difficult board because it's the pseudo judicial and it's very stick to the rules and
And the good thing,
long nights.
Well, we have 2 so we needed, so we did we get any applicants?
No applicants.
How about this? How about if we advertise it, see if we can get the applicants and have, let's renominate the chairperson and talk to the alternate and before she goes to full and see if we can get somebody, see if we can get somebody to fill the alternates.
is what can happen in this situation is that even though when David leaves, Irene can still fill her place until we can fill that position. So that's the reason why the alternates are there.
Correct.
Right.
And they're understudies. They're there all the time. They understand the process. I was on the board for a while, so.
So,
All right, I'm good
so
with
what
that.
So what I'm suggesting is let's bring Irene in, talk to her before she goes full-time, and try to re-advertise so we can get some of these open positions on the ZBA filled. And reappoint the chairperson.
Counselor Paul was gonna say
I just,
sorry.
thank you, Chad.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I
didn't
know,
see-
you
John
were
was
on a
just
roll and
reading
writing
notes.
stuff down, I wasn't gonna interrupt. I think it's a good time to talk about this, maybe. We should have one process that's written down that says, okay, we post the position for X amount of days, people put their name into the bank, right? Then those people who got their names into the bank, it goes to that board, whether it's conservation or plan, and then they interview those people there. And then they give a recommendation to us when those people come in, and then we look at it. Like, it should be the same for all the board, like, I just think consistency really works well, and I don't know if we do have an actual written, you know, we put up opening, so there's an opening on conservation, and we post it, and it stays up for 3 weeks, and after the end of the 3 weeks, we close it. Nobody, do you know what I mean? Like, is there an actual, or am I just being crazy?
So,
I do believe there is an actual process, so it.
It's just, I've seen different processes over my years here, and I just think it's good to have it written down for when our memories go.
Is it written down anywhere?
it is, Mr. Chairman. We do have Chapter 3 of the Administrative Code, which is a town ordinance, and it talks about what boards and committees we have. It talks about terms of office and the general conduct of meetings. It talks about record keeping. It does talk about posting notices of vacancies. I'll preface all of this by saying that the administrative code is a bit outdated, having last been amended in 2015. And so this is something that if we can get a little bit of breathing room after we get through the budget is on my list of priorities to recodify.
Can we put it on before the deliberative session as a workshop?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. There's certainly reorganizations
I'm
that
okay with
that have taken place. What I will tell you about right now, there is a provision that says you have to give give 3 months notice before filling a seat. I think that's a bit unrealistic. If you take the gentleman's seat from ZBA, he's done at the end of the year. He hasn't given us 3 months of notice, and so I think it's impractical to hold that open for 3 months particularly if we have applicants. But I think it's certainly worth a fresh look. And but to answer the question, Mr. Chairman, we do, as a starting point, have it's actually one of the better, I think, policies that we have in the administrative code. So it's a good starting point, as I said.
Okay.
The other thing is, and you and I've talked about it, having it put on the website. So, you know, Al Sypak,
Yes,
full planning board, and when he's done. And so this way people can see when other people are coming up
Yes.
in case they're looking for that.
Yes, that is in process. Unfortunately, this is something where It should be easy to just write in the date that somebody is, where their term is up on the website. Our website does not allow that. And so we are looking probably to upload a single document that shows when the terms expire to the website as a workaround.
That's a good idea.
Is it possible for us to send out letters to the people that have participated in their leadership?
But absolutely, we
I
can
think that would
absolutely do
be-
that.
You could jet them
Taking
an
it in.
you could jet them an email of that page you have
Yeah.
in here.
It's a great idea.
Send them this.
Want to do it.
Yep.
I really like that.
Thank you for the suggestion, Councilor Butler.
Okay, one thing I want you to check though, in particular with land use boards, we are the appointing authority. I want to make sure we're very careful around state law, around land use boards.
That's
And that we're
correct.
following whatever the state law says.
That's correct. And that's
I
why.
don't know what it says, I just want to make sure we
reminded me of
follow.
something, though.
That's right.
Can't
Correct.
be
That's why I think that, particularly with land use boards, I would tend to advise against referring it to the land use board for them to essentially nominate someone, because it needs to originate with the council. If that's what the council wants to do, so be it. But the council is the appointing authority, and I think we do need to adhere to that.
So I just was thinking about this and you're talking about planning. Wasn't there always somebody from the school that sat on planning, kind of like I do right now? Like
I think there is an assignment, isn't it?
there used to be, was that guy, Leferrier was one.
I know why.
We had a liaison.
A liaison that was
But
a
I don't
planning
know that
on.
we had a voting liaison. We'd have to check
No,
that.
we never, I just was curious, because I just realized that there's nobody from planning on there anymore. And
From the school or from planning?
from school.
Yeah. So I'll pull it up here.
That was a designation, I think, from the town manager at one point.
And so then we,
Yeah, they said that was somebody was gonna be sitting in for somebody. There was a
You
designation,
you can have an ex officio.
ex officio, I think that's what it was.
So the
And then
town
it's-
manager has an ex officio
right.
seat on the planning board
That's
that
what it
right now
was.
is being filled by Bruce Hallowell.
Yeah, but
So I think maybe perhaps that's where some of the.
it was, yeah, that back when Dave Karen was.
It's not Bruce, it's John.
Leferrier was on
Ronnie.
the CIP.
No,
He's on planning too.
John Ferry.
Yeah, look into that, it was ex officio.
I just kind of remembered things and it just seems that it's
He
shifted.
very well could have been.
right. So here we have Article 9.1 of the charter. 9 members, 6 of whom are appointed and 3 are ex officio. The 6 appointed are appointed by the council for 3 years. The 3 ex officios are the town manager or his or her designee, somebody who works for the town that's also designated by the town manager, and a counselor designated by the councilor by the council. I'm sorry, for a 1-year term.
Okay.
And so I don't see anything in here about any
It was from
representative
the
of
town
the school board.
manager.
And I think
You'll see that back.
Bruce is Rick Brito and John Varani was Kevin Smith's pick.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right.
Gianni is
Very-
your
very
ex
well.
officio.
Gianni's an ex officio, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think he was Kevin's ex officio.
Yeah, that's right.
And Rick Brito was
Okay.
Howard. It doesn't matter. Sorry.
Just let's be careful around the land use boards. I just don't want to get us any trouble around those.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Do we need to make a motion, vote on the ZBA reappointments, or?
Yeah, as soon as we're just gonna finish this discussion, I'll come back to it. Thanks for the reminder, I appreciate it. Anything else on this part? All right, so I'm only looking for one motion, and that's to reappoint Ms. Bernard to her term as the full member.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? Now we're gonna ask Irene and see if we can advertise and see if we can get a couple more people to come on in. And before we move Irene up to a full-time or possibly see who applies.
would you like to have Irene come in too, to talk to?
Yes, I think we have asked them to come in for the next meeting and,
Burlington.
She's from Somerville,
So,
yeah.
but I think she worked in
Burlington,
Burlington
right, for the town?
Yeah, well,
for the town.
see if we get any other applicants and see if she can come in for an interview as well, if we're gonna consider her to move up to full-time.
By all means.
And she's still good through the end of the year, so that takes care of this week's meeting. All right, that's great, thank you. Heritage Commission, I have, there is one alternate position open, looks like I got 3 full-time, and nobody applied for the alternate. So, anything on Heritage? You're okay with reappointing, just,
Motion
or do you want
approved.
the motion?
Second.
So, are you making a motion to reappoint
The three.
the
Yep.
Art, Kristen, and John,
Yes,
all to full members at 12/31/2025?
correct.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Chair opposed? Chair votes affirmative. Looks like we have an alternate position open, so if we can advertise that with the ZBA one too. Recreation appears they currently have one open 3-year alternate member. Why don't we put that out there and re-advertise that as well, please? So they're all set. Senior Resources Committee. So we have 2 interviews tonight.
How many positions open, John?
Are both full-time positions open? Do we know?
Yeah, I
It
believe
says
so.
here, yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
All
okay.
right, so we have 2 folks here to be interviewed tonight, Ms. Me and Ms. Fenn. Barbara, would you like to go first?
I don't see, yeah, she's not here.
She's not here.
Well, we can speak to her next time, I guess. Hi, Barbara, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
All right, we just need your name and address so that our clerk can capture the minutes.
Barbara Me, 62 Shasta Drive.
Thank you, Barbara. Generally, the way we do these things, Barbara, is that we let people either make an opening statement if they would like to make an opening statement, and then I'll go through the board, or we'll just go through and ask questions, because nobody knows you.
Where you been, John?
Exactly.
Barbara obviously knows I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been incognito in town, so.
True. So if you would like to say something first, please feel free. If not, I'll just let the board go ahead and speak with you.
I've been on the committee. I'm sort of the traveling member, so I fill in with emails and stuff. I originally had an idea to do like day trips, not necessarily just limited to seniors. I talked to Kevin about that. This is like 5 years ago before I retired. Then COVID. So I've been on the committee. Jim Green and Lois Zergowski approached me about reapplying, so I did. I talked to both of them. They both know that we're almost away more than we're home. They were fine with that. The new senior center director, I'll just say is wonderful, has been very supportive, loves the idea. I know other towns and communities have done it. My mother used to be involved in Southborough with one, my cousin in Wilmington, and it wouldn't necessarily be just seniors. So my initial idea was there might be some people in town that want to go to Boston for the day or an afternoon, but they don't want to drive. So maybe there'd be a bus. A lot of logistics. I've been in touch with Andy Susi and Serge Bolio about the buses, the companies that they use, what would costs be. Everything would have to be revisited because of COVID time, et cetera. Wouldn't, again, necessarily just be seniors. You know, maybe a senior wants to take their granddaughter with them and go to Boston. I thought of like Boston, Portsmouth, Portland as maybe day trips. I'm not talking about overnights. I've herded kids and also adults and on trips, maybe move to that eventually. But I just think it's great what the committee's been doing. Jim Green's been fantastic, and I'd like to stay involved with it again. But I'm happy to answer questions. if anybody
Thank you,
has.
Barbara. Yep.
I don't have a question.
Joe?
Well, I'm on the committee with you, Barbara. Just, I'm glad to hear that you're interested to stay on. You are, that's funny, you said that the traveling senior resource committee person. And, the thing is that, I especially would love you to stay on. And I think what we could do is kind of maybe have you call in during those times. I mean, maybe that's how we would do it, because you definitely bring a different perspective to the group. And so it's very valuable to us. And a lot of great ideas, so appreciate that.
No, I know Barbara, not much to say.
Thank you for your willingness and continued service to our
You're
seniors
welcome.
in our community.
Obviously, I know you, Barbara. I'll accept the motion.
Jim, may I make a motion to accept Barbara to full member of the resource committee?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative. Barbara, just see the clerk to be sworn in.
Okay.
So I, just as a quick note for the council. So I know Ann's not here right now, but she came to the last, I don't think she's.
Well, we've
here.
interviewed her for other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not here right now, but she did attend the last Senior Resource Committee meeting and I asked her to join and asked her to sign up. I think she'd be a really good member. She has lots of good ideas, and so I don't know what your privilege is, if you'd like her to come in, but
What's your pleasure?
I mean, I'd like to make a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to approve Ann as a full member of the Senior Resource Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative. And see the clerk to be sworn in, please.
Thanks, Ann.
John,
Yes.
should the utility committee be on here looking for people?
We are working
Or
on
do we
getting that up.
still
Yeah,
waiting?
we are, because of staff vacations, we haven't been able to get that out yet, but it's going up imminently.
Well, I was
Great.
just thinking if you were sending it out, if you added it.
I'd almost like to do that one as its own.
Okay.
I'm not saying don't do it the same
No, I
week.
was just trying to save them time. Why email twice when you can do it once?
Well, I mean, when we advertise it, because I think it
Same
needs a
thing.
little bit more
Beef?
description around what it is that we're doing in it versus just advertising it with the others. If everybody's okay with that.
I agree with that.
I just know that I've already gotten like 6 people that are interested, so.
Well,
that's great.
We'll get them to, who are they going to? Kirby?
Kirby.
And let's get them to Kirby.
Okay.
Okay, liaison reports. Anything new? Town manager report.
Just two things to address, Mr. Chairman. I spoke with the finance director today, and I spoke with Steve Hamilton, who is our assessor today, about our work to take a fresh look at the eligibility criteria for the elderly tax exemption, as well as the exemption amount for that benefit. There are different time frames for both of those inquiries. I'm happy to report that Steve is hard at work analyzing the income and asset limits to make sure that those are keeping up with inflation. And we'll be here on January 9th with a recommendation for the council. People are going to start applying for that, and so we want to get out ahead of that so that the assessing office can give folks an idea of what they might expect with those changes that are coming. With respect to the exemption amount and the council looking at that to determine whether changes are needed there, that is something that we are targeting for later in the spring, early summer. That doesn't need to be in place until the tax rate is set later in the year. But I'm happy to report that we're working on both of those items based on the input that we've received both from the council and from the public to make sure that those are keeping up with inflation.
So, I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
So when you say keeping up with inflation, does that also include social security increases and levels of income?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like a social security preview by the 9th.
Yep, and it's also
Because I understand it's gonna be 8 to 10%.
correct. There's also consideration of if Mr. Hamilton's recommendation is adopted, the supplemental nutrition assistance program benefit and how that's changed based on cost of living, to make sure that we're taking a comprehensive look at it so that folks aren't getting kicked off who have a need. And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, I'll just at a very high level preview this. The finance director and I are hard at work on the draft warrant. I can tell you that there are a couple of complex wording issues this year that need to go both to town council, meaning our attorney, but also with input from the Department of Revenue Administration to make sure that that we're thinking the right way about a couple of these questions. And those involve the first responder warrant article that you've referenced, Mr. Chairman, and just exactly how to accomplish that in a way that is legal and can get through the Department of Revenue Administration. And the second item is frankly to ask the very simple question of DRA whether we can have a multiple choice question asking voters what they think about the Lions Hall and which direction we should go with that. Those items are in process, but I just wanted to brief the council on them tonight.
So as a reminder on the Lions Hall, the 3-part question we're trying to ask them is what again?
It would be, well, as you described it, there may be different additional ways or additional answers to this question, but one would be, sort of doing the minimum repair to make the building usable again. Secondly, doing the what was presented as, I think, a $2 million repair, but in actuality could end up being a lot more. One option that was presented, I don't think there's any community support for this, but it also couldn't hurt to throw it on there. To confirm that fact would be the full rebuild that you heard about here this evening. And then I also heard you, Mr. Chairman, suggest that we might ask the community whether reverting it to the Lions is something that folks are interested in, or making it available for other community groups to rent.
I think what we need to work into it is I think we need to get a clear direction from the community of how they want to see the building being used going forward. And I know I know it's a hard way to ask them a question. But we need to weave that in so that we understand that, so that they can, make a decision based on that. And I'm not sure how to do that, but if we don't get some input from them, that building's gonna sit there and we're not gonna move forward. Go ahead, please.
Well, I'm just thinking some towns I've noticed when they had things like Derry, like the Chester with Stevens Hall and Derry with the,
Upper Village.
Upper Village, thank you. My brain got stuck. Anyway, putting out a survey on the town website.
Yep.
Just a simple monkey survey. It only accepts one IP thing. And just saying, it's in regards to this building. And people can share it. You make it Facebook friendly. It's just a matter of gathering the data. And we could see what people might want to do. I mean, I don't know if this is even legal for me to say, but I mean, it could go into the paper and, they can do a Q thingy to go right.
QR code.
Thank you to you guys. And then you can calculate it and I mean, it might be easier than, worrying about
Listen,
the wording.
I'm open to
Because I was
options.
thinking that the warrant was gonna be more, do we tear it down, rebuild it, or it was like a mix of
Right.
new and old. So there were the three options. Because I think I don't know, maybe.
So we're trying, so here's that, you're
But
right.
what do you
because-
want to use it for? But I mean,
Well, what do you want to use it for, and what are you willing to pay to use it for? So, I mean, that's the complicated part. You either pay $1 million, $2 million, or $4 million. I mean, and those are just round numbers, and saying if it's for $1 million, it's to just put it back in service. If it's $2 million, put it back in service and use it as a recreational department building. $4 million, we rebuild it and the school moves it. I mean, I'm just throwing this around.
no, I understand, and I mean that's what that survey would gather. But is that better there than on the warrant? I mean,
So I thought about this a little bit, Mr. Chairman, and I think, yes, there is an easy, low-cost way to survey the community. And it's a good idea. It's an idea that crossed my mind. It's not wrong. It's one way to do it. I do think there's some benefit in polling the people who are then likely to turn out on the financial question. Right? We're not just polling the whole universe. And I don't know of a way to limit
both, right?
You could do both. But I think, equally important is knowing not only what does a certain segment of people want to do with this building, but what do the voters who are going to turn up and vote on the financial implications favor?
and I'm not going to be fresh, but I will be. But once you know what it is, that also will affect the cost.
Yeah.
So without knowing what we want to do with it,
Right.
you can't really ask them.
I agree.
How can
Yeah.
we don't know what we're going to build until we know what we're going to do with it.
I
Because
completely
that will
agree.
affect the building of
It's a
it.
double-edged sword, absolutely.
So
and there's
that
no
was
reason you
why
can't
I
do
said
both.
do the survey this year and next year put it out and put it on CIP and all. But you won't know the number until you figure out
Right.
what it
Use
is.
for.
Right.
You can do both. And we'll get some sort of an idea. If you do the survey in January, we'll get some sort of an idea by deliberative.
Yeah.
And we can always change it at deliberative.
Yeah.
I mean, but my only concern is that the building doesn't sit for multiple years.
Yeah, because then.
Yeah, I agree, because then it's only gonna get worse and worse and worse.
Right. I know you guys are working on it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
I have a new line item on here called the Assistant Town Manager's Report.
I don't have anything for you this evening, Mr.
Oh, thank you. If there's not anything else,
Mr.
We already-
Chairman, my
yes.
regular plug of the second Tuesday in January, January 10th, is the deadline for any non-bond petition warrant articles.
okay, deliberative is February 10th, right?
11th.
11th. February 10th is the school,
Correct.
and February 11th is the town.
Correct.
Okay, with that,
Motion to adjourn?
we'll wish everybody a happy holiday and Merry Christmas this week, and please be careful out there. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.